80%
Mm-hmm.
of conversions are in the 5th to 12th follow-up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's 2% in the first, 5% in the second, and 80% in the 5th to 12th. Most businesses give up after the second follow-up. So most of you who are listening, if you don't follow up at least 5 times, 5 to 12, you're missing out on 80% of your client acquisition.
If you want to make more sales without the pressure to post on social media, I made this podcast specifically for you. I'm Leslie Stevens, and this is the Not an Influencer, an Impact Maker podcast, where we talk about other organic marketing strategies to bring more clients into your online business and the stories of the incredible entrepreneurs who are using these strategies in their businesses every day to create success. You do not have to be an influencer. You are in for a treat today because we get to talk with Alison. So Alison, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
Thanks, Leslie, for having me on. Yes, my background, or I'm a high-performance business coach. So I've been doing that for a number of years now. I also an author. I've written a book as well. I am a mum and a wife as well. And I've been an athlete for most of my life also as well. So those are probably the biggest things in my world.
Oh, amazing. I mean, I feel like they all kind of go together. You got to have that kind of athlete mindset for that high performance. So, how did you get into high performance coaching?
Sure. So my background, or my beginning point, I'm an occupational therapist by profession. So I think through that, and I've been introduced to sport probably when I was about 5, maybe even younger than that. Probably competitive sport when I was about 5. So, I think a combination of all of those things, and being involved in sport for such a long time, different sports, but at high level. And then as a career, going into or becoming an occupational therapist, where I guess the central way that model works is that you're in the center, and then if you're going right, you have bigger reach. You can reach out further into different areas of your life. You have more control. You have more ability to do different things, and that what that looks like for each individual person, what high performance is for an individual and for an organization, are completely different because it's centric. It's based on the person, and when that middle person is going right, or the center of that organization is going well, then everything can reach out. And so being able to utilize that theory and that thinking has led me, I guess I've iterated on that so many different times. I've worked with large organizations and been able to observe like if the culture's not great, what damage does that do to the people who are working for it?
Mm-hmm.
And then go in and help them change that as well, through to assisting someone to learn to put their socks on after they've had an injury and they can't do that anymore, right? So that's what I'm saying, is high performance is very different for each individual person. And then being able to, from my own level, is build a business. I also had a network marketing business, like not all that long ago. Built that very successfully to an extremely high level. So those things around sport and around business, and then around helping people to build successfully, that it's just iterated and iterated and iterated and iterated to where I am now. And I think it's not all that different. It's just a different way to help people. I think, Leslie, probably help people express themselves through different mechanisms, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
whether that be sport or art or business or whatever it is, it's that assisting people to be fully expressed and to really help each other. That's
Mm-hmm.
what I'm passionate about.
Oh, that's such a beautiful way to just integrate everything that you've done in your life into supporting people in so many different facets and whatever applies to them. And I love that you kind of are able to look at it, excuse me, you're able to look at it from a different perspective than a lot of people do. Sometimes I see a lot of people kind of walk in with an idea in their head and they're trying to fit people into a mold. But you see that it's high performance is going to look different for all of these different people, these different areas of life, even the different situations that you're in. So I think it's absolutely brilliant how you've been able to combine all of this actual like tangible practice and education and all of these things together beautifully to support other people. So how did you get your first clients in this business?
Yeah, so from a coaching perspective, it's so I love simple grassroots things, right? Because the simpler the better. Because when it's really complicated, who can duplicate that? No one, right? Like it's too hard. So I think when there's a lot of people, and I have a lot of clients, Leslie, who've spent an awful lot of money outsourcing their marketing, or well, I should say outsourcing their advertising, really, because they're two different
Mhm.
things. But outsourcing their marketing and advertising, spending oodles of money for no return. So I think if you don't know what your messaging is and you don't know who you are and you don't know all of those things, and it's not good and that message doesn't land, then you're just spending an awful lot of money on something that's already bad, and you're just going to make
Mhm.
it worse, just worse fast and
Yeah.
expensive, right? So
You're amplifying whatever the result is that you're already
just
creating.
amplifying bad. So it doesn't help. You've got to get that message right. So, word of mouth is always how I've done that. So the very first thing I think that whenever I've started a new business or whenever I've gone down this path is it's who do I know? Who do I know? And even if I don't know anyone, everyone knows someone,
Mhm.
right? And those people know someone. So being brave enough to tell people what I was doing.
Mhm.
What am I doing now? Even though, at the beginning you feel like an imposter, you feel like, oh my God, I'm starting out, no one's gonna listen to me. All of that stuff still, I mean, it still goes through my mind, right? Like that doesn't go away. I don't think there's ever a magical day. Well, maybe there is, but I've never experienced it in all my years of business where that magically goes away. And the reason it never goes away is because most people just up level their goals, right?
Mhm.
If if you're a driven person, you just keep up leveling the goal so it never actually goes away. But I'd rather choose that discomfort than the discomfort of not achieving my goals. So first and foremost, I always contact every single person that I know, everyone
Mhm.
I can think of, and let them know what I'm doing, and then that and say, look, do you know anyone, or are you looking for whoever? And I don't care if that first client I get is paying me $0 or paying me in actual dollars. It's not even about that. For that first exchange, that first client, it's just about starting.
Mhm.
So, and then, most people obviously know people, and those people know people, so that can actually lead to quite a lot of people, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Or they can put you in contact with someone else who might know somebody. And then, I mean, I've done flyer drops, right? They still work, right?
Mhm.
Letterbox flyer drops, person flyer drops, business flyer drops. They still work, and I think they work better than they ever have because no one else is doing them anymore, right?
Mhm.
Well, some real estate agents still do them, and there's a reason real estate agents still do them, because they work,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, they definitely do.
Um, so that's another one. And then the other one is actually physically going and speaking to business owners in my local area. So whether that be walk into their business and speak to them, that has been something that's been very powerful for me, particularly from the aspect of what businesses have I done business with?
Mhm.
Like, where do I go to do business? Where have I
Mhm.
been to do business? Because I know their business, right? I know as a customer, I know some of their pain points because I've
Mhm.
been through the experience. So being able to speak with the business owner and highlight some of those and say, look, this is potentially where I might be able to assist. And some will say yes, some will say no. But that process leads to things. Local networking groups are also been excellent.
Yeah. I love that you start where you like where you know. You start with people you know, places you go, and environments that you already are in and having exchanges with. So often when we start something, we get so nervous. We kind of try and like hide it from the people we know and don't want to go and talk to people at businesses we go and have experiences with often. We hold ourselves back from that, and it's such a powerful way to get yourself out there. Start with the people you know, just start talking. And I say this all the time. I'm like, just go out there and tell somebody what you do. And the more you practice it, the more you see what lands, what resonates. That's where your message comes from. It's not going to come from letting it sit in your mind and getting deeper and deeper into what you're thinking. You have to be out there and interacting with people who are potential clients and customers. So, how did you gain the confidence to put yourself out there like that? Because I know I used to struggle with it personally, and I know a lot of people who are listening struggle with the same.
Yeah, look, it's scary. It really actually is incredibly scary, right? Which is why I think a lot of people, like you said, we try and hide behind our computer. Well, just all the social media stuff, right? Great, you need it. Like you absolutely need it, 100%, because it takes so many touch points now for people to convert. People will go and check you out on social media, but sometimes we need that for different reasons than we think we need it, right?
Mhm.
Like it's unlikely, well, there's people you know on there, so you might get your first client on there. But in terms of, scaling your business dramatically, very quickly, is that going to be the place you do it straight away? Probably not. It's a longer burn, right? In terms of getting your
Mhm.
messaging right, all of that stuff. So often it's a way we hide, and then often we don't want to talk to the people. And I've made that mistake before in different business where I didn't want to talk to the people that I know, because I'm like, oh, they're going to think I'm an idiot. They're going to, oh, here she goes again. What's she doing now? Why do you have to? Blah, 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 blah. Right. So I'm so clear on my goal, right? Begin with the end in mind. I am so clear on my goal and why I want it that drives my decisions. And
Mhm.
then from there, I break that goal down into teeny tiny little bits that I can actually stomach.
Mhm.
And then if I just have to keep breaking it down and keep breaking it down and keep breaking it down until it's small enough, the next step is small enough that I can actually tangibly think with it. And then sometimes I just have to eat the frog, right? There's a book called Eat the Frog, Brian Tracy, Eat the Frog. Favorite thing, right? One of my favorite things. Eat the frog. So do the thing that you don't want to do and do it first and get it out of the way. And then the other thing that I will do is I'll set myself a timer. So
Mhm.
I go, you've got 10 minutes. And I'll probably procrastinate for 9 of them, right? And try and talk
Don't we
myself
all?
into it or whatever, right? Have the sweaty palms, dry mouth, all of that. And I'll probably only use the last minute, but that I find that works. If I give myself a short enough time frame to increase the urgency high enough to have to do it, and if I use the eat the frog theory where I do it first and get it out of the way, because otherwise, if I put speaking to someone I know, right, when I'm first starting out, if I put that at the end of the day, I have literally thought about it all day. By the end of the day, I'm exhausted and I actually don't have any energy to do it, to overcome the stinking thinking in my head, right? Because it takes a lot of confront to overcome that.
Mhm.
And posture is also important too. As stupid as this might sound, Leslie, but how you stand and how you sit matters. How you position your body, right? Something as a, like my most recent sport was figure bodybuilding.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I won my pro card in figure bodybuilding for Miss Fitness Australia, right? But my first few competitions, like my coach is like, okay, you should be winning. What's going on? Like, why? What's going on? So, anyway, finding the right vehicle, blah, blah, blah. I could go down a story with that. But the thing that I really learned, so I'm like, okay, what's my goal? I want to win my pro card. Okay, who out there is winning? What are they doing? How are they? And it's not necessary, because it's a very objective, right? Like someone else is deciding whether you win or not you. It's not
Mm-hmm.
necessarily based on, like most of my other sports, like you cross the line first, you win, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's so not like that. There's other people judging you in this sport, so it's not first across the line wins. It's based off other people's opinions. I'm like, all right, this is different. How do I win in this environment? How do I win in a judgmental environment?
Mm-hmm.
Well, a lot of that comes down to confidence. Yes, okay, you've got to turn up with the best package you can in terms of your physique. Of course, that's a given, right? Like you've got no different to business. You've got to turn up with something, like
Mm-hmm.
a product or a idea or a way to help someone. But your confidence makes a difference. And what I learned was in that is if I went into that performance thinking about, one, what I'm going to do when I'm not on the stage, I would lose. So thinking about that, not being present in that moment of what I'm doing. And two, not standing or walking confidently or owning the stage, I would lose.
Mm-hmm.
So whether I felt like it or not, I had to learn or be willing to own the moment with everything I could bring to it in that moment. Even though I didn't know whether I was the best or anything, I just had to be the best I could in that moment with everything I had. And then afterwards, I could critique myself and pull myself apart and do all of that. That was fine. But I had to leave procrastination, right? Here's a tool that people can use, and I've used it all the time in sport. Procrastination's a great thing
Mm-hmm.
when you use it well. And so what I do is I procrastinate on my stinking thinking. So in those moments where I need to perform, and that's a performance to go and put yourself out there, right? Your mind is going to kick in, like your
Mm-hmm.
stinking thinking, right? Like it's going to kick in. So I literally have a conversation with my mind and I'll say, thank you for protecting me. I don't need you right now. I'm busy. I have to go and do something. However, I'll come back and I'll get you when I'm done if I need you. Like I'm literally having a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And then what that allows me to do is to take control in that moment, acknowledge what's going on, take control in the moment, go do, and there's only a space. You've got to then go act quick. Go and act, do what I need to do. And then if I want it, because I'm procrastinating on my stinking thinking, right? I give it a
Mm-hmm.
pause. Like, you can wait for later. Like, I know how to procrastinate. I might as well procrastinate on that, right? So
Mm-hmm.
it just gives me enough space to be able to go out and perform that high level action. And then if I want to come back and get into a conversation with my mind, I can. But usually by then I've forgotten and you're on a high, right? Like you're like, whoa, I did that. And then you want to go do something like that again, like back that action up, right? Or look at it and went, what went well? What went
Mm-hmm.
well first? What could I improve on? Okay, I've done it once. I can do it again. Did that pay off in terms of, did I get my new client? Maybe, maybe not, but I did it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that helps.
Oh, that's incredibly helpful. You said so many things in there, but there are a couple things that I want to touch on. I genuinely believe confidence is a muscle and that you can continue to work on it and grow that muscle. So if you are nervous right now about going out there and telling somebody you know what you are doing with your new business or your business that maybe you've had for a while, if you go and you do it, the more that you do it, it's not that it's not going to not be scary anymore, but if you put in the reps over time, you're going to get stronger at it. And like you said, Allison, like, you can then use that productively to be like, okay, what did I do well? Did this work out the way I thought it was? And then you can think about all of those things. But you're going to learn so much more, and you're going to move forward so much faster by taking the actions and not thinking about them, because it is exhausting thinking about, okay, I need to do this new thing or this thing that I am not used to. And when you're not used to something, and when you're trying to reach a goal that maybe you haven't reached before, or it's a high level goal, it's going to be a little uncomfortable to get there because it's something that you're not used to doing. So that discomfort is kind of telling you, like, hey, you're growing. Hey, you're going to create a different result than you've gotten before. Like, welcome that discomfort, and then talk to yourself. Say, hey, thank you for protecting me. I know you have a job to do, but I'm going to take care of this right now, and then I'll come back to you later and we'll use this productively. So there are just so many golden nuggets that you touched on there. How do you break through that moment of, okay, these are the tasks that I need to do? For example, I need to reach out to 2 people today to just tell them what I do and start a conversation. In that moment where you're kind of having that conversation with yourself between, like, oh, what are they going to think of me? What's the judgment that's going to come? What are they going to say? How do you break through that moment when you decide, I'm going to think about this all day, or I'm going to go right now?
Yep. Ready, set, go.
Yes. I count
Right.
backwards from 5.
Count backwards. Ready, set, go. Because you'll never be ready. Like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I agree that there is an importance to preparation. Don't get me wrong, right? Like, preparation is important, but there's also the point where preparation is procrastination. So it might be that I'm prepared, right? Because I want to reduce the time and the excuses down. So if I'm reaching out to someone, I might have a script ready, right? I might
Mm-hmm.
have written out my script so I feel more confident. So I'll use all the tools. If I'm sending them a message, I'll have it pre-written, right? So that
Mm-hmm.
when it's ready, set, go, literally I can take time out of it. If I'm going to do a phone call, I'll have the person's name and call, or the business I'm going to visit. Like, I have that ready. I'm prepared. But you can also do so much preparation that you never take any action. So I will use those tools to take time out of it,
Mm-hmm.
so that when I've scheduled that time in, because I will schedule it in, because if I don't schedule it in, I will not do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one, I use a schedule. I schedule it in, and I schedule it in first. I'm prepared. I've got all my tools ready, so I can't use that as an excuse to not do it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
get rid of all the excuses before, and then I literally ready, set, go. So it's like ripping a Band-Aid off. If you rip it on, it's like painful if you do it slowly. So I just use ready, set, go, and that just to take the thinking out of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. If you can take the thinking out of it and break it down into those small, manageable steps, like you were saying, if you take out all the excuses, what's left? You just take the action and you go for it. And I know a lot of people are nervous about what happens after, and that's a lot of what holds them back. So after they share what they do, going to the business, talking to the person who owns the business, telling them exactly what they do, what I have experienced is you're actually going to get a lot more positive feedback. And if people aren't interested, if it's a no right then, it's not a no forever. And it's not a personal thing either. It might just be that they don't need your service at that moment. So I've been pleasantly surprised by those interactions, and that's encouraged me to do more of those things. Can you share with us, like, what your experiences are if it wasn't the right time for someone to work with you?
100%. And often it's not, right?
Mm-hmm.
More often it will not be exactly the right timing, but you are collecting data, right, to build an amazing database that you will continue to follow up, because the fortune, people surely have heard the saying, the fortune's in the follow up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so often we'll do something once, yet we will not follow through. Now, marketing and branding is not a one thing, it's not a one time gig, right? So, how you follow someone up, in my opinion, is a representation of how you'll service that client or that
Mm-hmm.
customer. So, if you can't follow them up and you aren't consistently following them up, what branding message are you sending them?
Mm-hmm.
What, that you're inconsistent and that you don't really care? It's like, if you really believe in your service or your product that much, and you know your service or product can help that person, what are you doing ripping them off, not following them up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And follow up, it could take you, some clients will convert straight away, right? Like we've spoken about, really pleasantly surprised. You're like, oh, wow, that was easy, right? Like, I made that such a big deal. But then others are like, no, not yet, or no. But if you follow them, it could take 12 months. I've had clients that took 5 years
Mm-hmm.
before they onboarded, right? It just was a time. It was just with at that time when I spoke to them, although I could see the problem was big enough, they could not, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it was only when the problem became big enough for them to then move on it, in their opinion, did they move. And you want to, at that time when that person is ready, you want to be the first person thought of
Mm-hmm.
for that thing. Now, if you have not been consistently following up and in front of them and noisy with them, you will not be the first person thought of. They will just reach for the first thing they can grab because they want to resolve the problem then, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's, it's so important to have some sort of follow up. Now, you might be brand new in business, so you're building that on the way through and on the as you go. That's totally fine. But follow up can be all sorts of things, and that's where I think socials are important, because that's a form of follow up, right? That
Mm-hmm.
consistency on your socials, or an email newsletter, or those sorts of, or revisiting that business and having periodic revisits, or whatever it is. And it's not been a pain. Like, a lot of people, oh, I don't want to follow up, or I don't want to do that because I don't want to be annoying. It's like, well, if your product is that good, how are you being annoying? And if you're ethical, you're not being annoying. How can you provide value in those follow-ups? You're not just going, are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Are you ready yet? Well, yes, that is, like, I mean, if you've got kids, or you've been around, children, when they want something, that becomes very annoying, but they're persistent and they follow up. And guess what happens? Most parents cave in.
Mm-hmm.
It's so, take that from young children and then tweak it for what's appropriate for your business, in terms of following through and following up and providing valuable content, or something that's valuable to that client or customer on an ongoing basis, so that you are both first thought of and last thought of, because that means that they'll come to you when they are ready.
Yeah, absolutely. I read some statistic and it was like most most people need to be followed up with it at least 5 times.
Yeah,
But
5 to 12. So 80%
mm-hmm.
of conversions are in the fifth to 12th follow up. So
Mm-hmm.
it's 2% in the first, 5% in the second, and 80% in the fifth to 12th. Most businesses give up after the second follow up. So, most of you who are listening, if you don't follow up at least 5 times, 5 to 12, you're missing out on 80% of your client acquisition. And you've done all the work to make the first contact. That's
Mm-hmm.
the hardest part, right? We've
You got
spoken
through the
about.
hardest part, not just
You've
the
done the
little
hardest.
one.
Exactly. You've done the hardest part, and then you stopped. It's like, no, don't do that.
Yeah. I think we do have that mindset of we don't want to be that annoying child. But I also think that's an opportunity for us to shift our mindset about the way that we are following up with people. It's not about us being annoying, it's about us supporting somebody else. So if we go into it with the mindset it's about us, then we will feel that annoying kid. But if we know, hey, they need support with this, I have an incredible way that I can support them. Let me have the opportunity to show them that through the value that you provide in those follow-ups. And I think that can be a really great way to look at following up. And then following up 6 times might not feel as painful for you, and it could actually be a little bit enjoyable.
Exactly. Look, it's shifting to sales as a service, right?
Mm-hmm.
Instead of thinking that you're, the old adage of like a used car salesman, that annoying salesperson or that annoying 3-year-old, right?
Uh-huh.
It's just shifting to sales as a service. And that comes from first and foremost being sold on the product and your service yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Sold on you
Absolutely.
and what you do yourself first. That's your biggest sale, will be to you.
Yeah, and it's the most important one. So
Sure
thank
is.
you, thank you so much for hanging out with us today and giving us all this incredible information. Can you tell us where people can find you to connect with you and potentially work with you?
Absolutely. So the easiest way probably is on my website, which is the Alison Wheeler .com, which is THEALISON Wheeler WHEELER.com. I also have a quiz on there that anyone's more than welcome to jump on to find out what 7-figure CEO persona they are. So whether you might be an Oprah Winfrey, or you may be a Jeff Bezos or a Steve Jobs or a Martha Stewart, who knows, jump on and find out. And then I also offer a free strategy session that people can book in for on that website, or they can check me out on my socials. And my socials handle is the Alison Wheeler Coaching.
Fantastic. And all of those links are in the description below. So go ahead, click them, connect with Alison, and thank you so much for hanging out with us today.
Thanks for having me, Leslie. It's been fun.
What if I told you there was a way to get more leads in your online business without having to post on social media? That's something you'd want to know more about, right? Well, you can learn exactly that in my free training, where I will teach you how to leverage simple conversations to turn strangers into paying clients, as well as how to borrow other people's audiences to build your authority, credibility, and connect with new potential clients, as well as how to make sales simple and easy. Click the link in the description or go to Client Connection Method